Hey there, everybody. Welcome back. Thanks for clicking on the video. Hopefully, you enjoy some things I have to say. And if you do, I hope you like and subscribe and do all the fun things. I think you got to click notifications too. So, I hope everyone's having a good week. I definitely am. I get to go get a pedicure tomorrow, so yay! It's my yearly extravaganza. But anyway, we're going to get into Before the 90 Days, Season 6, Episode 7, Fatal Attraction. It was alright. There was a lot going on. I had a lot of emotions get raised up, and if this video gets a little feisty in places, I'm sorry, but some of these people need common sense, and they don't have it. But I'm going to start with Statler and Dempsey. She is, on the plane. She's been on there for 14 hours, and she's ready to land in England. If the ground wasn't so germy, she would kiss it. And we find out, Dempsey officially missed her flight. So hopefully she can make it soon. But the plan is to, meet up with her tomorrow. So the delay and that coupled with, the lack of communication since Dempsey's been in Thailand is really flaring up Statler's insecurities. And it's just not going how she was expecting it. And, she seems like an anxious person. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with ADHD sometimes. And I think when anxious people's plan don't go according to the plan, we have a real hard time with it. So I could understand. She's trying to be positive, but she's put all her eggs in the basket. So she's just going to have to wait. She has a hotel in Manchester that she's going to stay in and relax and prepare to meet Dempsey. And, they already had this planned out for staying there, but Dempsey missed her flight. So that didn't work out. She takes the 3-hour train ride from London to Manchester, which probably isn't a whole lot of fun after the 14-hour flight. But it looks so relaxing and nice and pretty, and I think I would enjoy doing that. Just maybe not immediately after a flight. And then, she gets to her hotel room, and it's nice. She's not a big fan of the bathroom placement. She thinks it could kill the intimate, moments having each other right there going to the bathroom. So, I don't have a lot of opinions there. Most hotels are like that, I think. And everybody's an adult. Everyone has bodily functions. So I think she's going to be okay. So later we see her, and she's super sick. Her stomach, she's got nausea, vomiting. Apparently you can hear the effects of that going on. I'm not sure that my TV wasn't loud enough, but luckily I missed it. But no thank you, TLC. That's a little much. You can just say someone has diarrhea. We don't need to hear it. So yeah, I think she just has some kind of like traveling sickness. I never travel, so I'm not sure. But I think all the stress and not eating right and all of that has a big effect on your body. Excuse me. Sorry. But, she's worried because today's the day she's going to meet Dempsey, and she doesn't know that she's going to be able to do that without, a diaper or something to help her along. So she texts her, she lets her know, she's sick, and she's not going to make it to the train to pick her up. Dempsey's like, are you okay? And then we find out Statler got a doctor's appointment. Which I don't know how she got a doctor's appointment so quick in another country. Maybe like TLC pulled some strings, so they could get the footage they needed. But it's hard for me to get a doctor's appointment at the hospital I've been going to for years. Not always. I mean, in a week, in a reasonable time. But like that day, you have to go to the walk-in. And maybe that's what she did. I really don't know how any of that works. So, turns out she says she has a parasite, and they gave her some nausea meds, and, they kicked in, and she's feeling better a little bit. And she also feels better that she knows what's wrong with her. And I'm wondering if they didn't say she has a virus and not a parasite, because parasites are tricky little guys, I think. I think hopefully she meant just virus, like something has to pass through. But after that, she is, heading off to meet her lady. She kind of sent her location, and she's a braver person than me, because I would definitely need to shower after having all that happen to me all night and then going to meet the person I love. But, it is what it is. She has like her little freak out. She's like nervous. This feels like a first look at her potential wife. So it's exciting yet terrifying. Suddenly Dempsey appears and they're both smiles. They have a nice little hug, and Dempsey can't believe Statler's here. And Statler can't believe Dempsey is a real person. And, Statler's like, wow, your eyes are mesmerizing. And she offers to help her carry her bags. And they just both seem really nervous. A lot of nervous laughter, things like that. And, Dempsey introduces herself in person. And she's excited, but she's also anxious. And they conclude that they're both just awkward people. She likes Statler a lot, and, she's like, why are you so red? And she's like, I'm blushing, you're making me blush. So that's cute, and she's happy that she makes her blush, and she still likes her, and they're so awkward and happy together, and Statler says she feels like she's home. Dempsey gives her a gift of some vitamins and vegan buttercups. And, they both have more gifts to give each other back at the hotel. So they go to exchange gifts and head back to the hotel. But not before, Statler has to check out Dempsey's booty in person. And she quite approves. They're going to share a hotel room. We should see some more of them next week. I'm thinking, a lot of these couples, I feel, have just like shorter storylines, so that's why we're getting more of them, or like weeks without them. And I think that helps because you don't get exhausted on them. So I was thinking, why are all these such short storylines? But, these people are only there for a couple weeks, few weeks. It was just a fun fact I noticed. It seems like they're going with like shorter, more dramatic, hopefully. Alrighty, so up next I'm going to go with Gino and Jasmine. They are on their way to go see the Panama Canal. It's a place Gino's wanted to see ever since he started coming to Panama, because he is an engineer, and this is one of the greatest feats of engineering, and he's excited to see how it operates and how the ships go through. And I think these are the kind of things that they need to be doing to get a closer bond, not arguing about their issues. So they get there, and Jasmine is like so loud and excited, and you can just hear her over all the tourists. And she gives Gino a lesson how the canal works. And it just seems scripted to me, because she starts asking him questions like, how do you feel being an engineer and seeing this? And how do you feel that this was your country who built this? And your country and mine have always had a love history. And she's so like giddy about that part. And Gino just blanks the F out, and he starts looking at something. And she's like, baby, I'm talking. Like, you're always talking. And he apologizes to her, and he's like, I heard something. I'm sorry. This canal is so interesting. And, I can see both sides here. Jasmine does talk a lot, and he is being rude, just blatantly ignoring what she said, because he was looking right at her when she was talking, and then he just, looked away, off at the boats, which is why they were there. I'm sure he gets sick of hearing her talk all the time, but he chose to be with her. She says she knows something is up. She's like, ask him if he's good. But she knows something's up. And she's like, he's been weird since the night before. And she's just concerned because they don't have a lot of time before she moves to America. And they aren't making progress as a couple. So then they're sitting down, and Jasmine starts talking about her past marriage and how they had these communication issues. And Gino's like, hey lady, I was married 7 years and we didn't argue. We got along. And she's like, well, you still got a divorce. And he's like, yeah, but we got along. And she says, well, you were a boring couple. So according to Jasmine, anyone who's, not toxic and doesn't fight every day is boring. So I think I would rather do that. I would rather be boring and enjoy my hot cocoa on the sofa, watching The Grinch, instead of screaming at each other. That's just me. So she just thinks she's so much better, mature, experienced him in every way possible. He had a successful 7-year marriage. I understand that it wasn't successful, but they stayed together for 7 years. That's a lot of hard work. That's a success to me. Even if it ended, he learned a lot. So anyway, Jasmine is like, well, why did you bring up your ex? And he's like, well, why did you bring up yours? And she's like, she needed an example. And she needed an example, and he knows that she gets mad when he talks about her ex. Meanwhile, the 100 people here looking at the Panama Canal are about to get a show or something. I don't know why they didn't clear it out for filming. Maybe they wanted it to seem legit. I don't know. But he says, if you can talk about your exes, if you can do it, I can do it. And you can know what it feels like. And I'm like, yes, Gino. He's like, let me enjoy the scenery, and walks away. And she's like, this is how you pay me back for bringing him to the Panama Canal? And it's like, I'm pretty sure Gino brought you. He probably paid for the, cab. He probably paid for the entrance fee and the souvenirs. So just because she lives there doesn't mean he couldn't have organized and brought himself to the Panama Canal. It's probably her fault that he hasn't even seen it yet, because he's too busy doing stuff she likes. So, Gino's quite good at doing things by himself. That's all she keeps crying about. And then he tells her, last night her friend revealed to him that Dane isn't just a friend, he's an ex. And now he's worried something's going on in between them. They're sitting out there by the canal. They're having their little granola bars by the water. And she's like, bro, what is the matter already? So he finally tells her, I know you were talking to Dane, and he's your ex, and he's just a friend, but you lied to me because I know he's your ex. And she's like, nothing's going on. And he's acting like she's cheating, and he's like, are you? And she says that it's crazy and just laughs in his face. And Gino is definitely not laughing. And that is just the laugh of being guilty and nervous. And she goes with nervous. And he's like, why are you nervous? Are you cheating on me? And then they cut to commercial. I don't have the commercials, but they cut it off. And later when we get back to Gino and Jasmine, he says, all this time he has trusted her. Now he finds out she's been close friends with an ex and she's been hiding it. And, now he needs to know what's going on because when she gets to Michigan, it's too late. Like, she says no, she's been faithful, she's not cheating, up and down, he's a friend. And he's like, you told me exes can't be friends. He can't even mention an ex's name. And then she goes right to, like, you shared my nudes. But, that wasn't to all of his exes. It was one ex. And even if he did that, he should be able to talk about his past and his past experiences and his opinions and things that happened to him in relationships to shape him the way he is now. You need that information. If you're too insecure to hear it, tough. But you have to learn from the past to, make a better future. So, she's like, don't compare Dane to your exes. He's genuine and respectful, and he's so aware we're engaged. And it's like, you remember a couple episodes ago, Jasmine, when you told Gino that your ex was literally better at everything in every way than Gino? Like, that's okay? So, in the Talking Head interview, Gino's like, yeah, she lied. Oh, she says that she lied, and she still doesn't know. Gino doesn't know that he lives in the same apartment building as Jasmine. And, it's time for Jasmine to fess up and tell him. So she tells him, they talk once a week, and he's like, well, WTF, are you guys, meeting in person? She's like, yeah, we shop and talk and do friend stuff. And, friend stuff can sound like date stuff real quick, especially to your partner you've been lying to. So he's like, have you been alone recently? And she's like, yeah, he lives in the same building as me, and we had a coffee, well, she didn't say coffee date, but we got coffee before you came. Poor Gino never thought. Poor Gino. Did you think you would say that? I feel bad for him in this moment. And he's like, of all the buildings in Panama, you picked the one that he lives in. And she's like, yeah, he's my friend, Gino. And Gino's like, I can't believe this. And I'm just hoping he's gonna, rehash the prenup argument because he deserves it. He needs it. So he goes on to say he would have never paid $3,000 a month for her to be living in the same building as her ex. And, like, the fact that she thinks it's not a big deal makes it so much worse. And he's right, like, she's completely wrong here. I can't even defend her. So, he asks her if they're intimate. She says no. He's like, have you guys, been intimate since you broke up? And she's like, well, we were friends with benefits because the sex is so good. And remember, I keep telling you in All Out Fights that when she met Gino, sorry. She keeps telling Gino in every fight that the sex is so good. So, when she met Gino, she stopped having sex with Dane, she says. And he's like, well, have you thought about it since then? And she's like, well, I'm not in love or attracted to him, but you don't do it with me, so, you're rejecting me. We argue all the time, and she feels like he rejects her all the time. And Gino has unlocked new higher levels of insecurities with Jasmine. And she just remembers what it was like having sex with Dane, but she's not going to do it. Gino's like, that's really low to fantasize about him. And she blames Gino and how their sex life is bad, and if it was good, she wouldn't have to. So it's all his fault that she lies. Gino is like, look, by her own definition, she cheated. Because according to Jasmine, even if he speaks to an ex, he is cheating. So he lists all the things that he just found out, and he's like, well, I'm starting to lose my trust. Like, duh, Gino, you should have lost it. This is ridiculous. Nobody should be treated this way. So He doesn't know how they could get married now, but I'm sure they will because he's kind of a pushover. But he is 100% in the right here, and she knows that, and that's why she didn't go completely ballistic. Because there's no excuse for it, and she knows she's a hypocrite. There's no way she's more trustworthy than Gino. Okay, nobody's that trustworthy. And just because all she throws in his face is how loyal she is to him, clearly she's not. Because if loyal people don't do this. So, that's all we got to say about that. Oh, I guess on a little bit of a side note, at least it wasn't so raunchy and disgusting, and we got to see the Panama Canal. So, yay for that. Alright, next up I'm going to go with Misha and Nicola. So after, missing them terribly last week, let's catch up with these crazy kids. And no, I really didn't miss them that much. So Misha's been in Israel a couple days, and already it's a mixed bag, she says. On one hand, she loves being in the Holy Land and going to all the holy places with Nicola. And on the other hand, she's concerned about all the things she's seeing and are expressing that are concerns for her, and they're just not being taken seriously. And that drives me nuts when people do that to me. So, after 7 years, she wants to meet his family, and they don't know anything about her. And how could she want to spend her life with someone and know nothing about their family? So they get to where they're going. She's having an anxious moment because everyone else is in dresses and she's not. And he's like, that's a wedding dress. And he's like, no, it's not. And she's like, oh, maybe it is, but I need to get in a dress. She's like seriously about to hyperventilate about this. So I'm pretty sure she was dressed fine for the occasion. But she gets in the car and starts changing, and he's like, it's not normal, it's embarrassing. She's in there, taking off her clothes, and people can see through the windows, so he's trying to block the window best he can. He says she doesn't understand why she acts worldly, and he's not understanding why she's obsessed with her clothes. She does say that she was a reporter, so she's used to changing clothes in weird accommodations if need be. So, finally she's dressed, and he's like, let's go look at this valley. Come. Like she's a freaking poodle or something. He's like, come. Excuse me, sir. There are only certain times that's appropriate. Anyway, I don't like being talked to like a dog, so there's that. The place they're at is called Haifa, and they take pictures. The view is beautiful, and now it's our time for our weekly dose of Bible study, starring Misha and Nicola. So, Haifa is important to the Catholics because it's located on Mount Carmel. Saint Elijah in the Old Testament fought against the false prophet, but he also, that's where in the Old Testament Saint Elijah fought against the false prophet. And they don't tell us who that is. But he also wants her to see the beauty of the bay and the mountain and the Mediterranean Sea. He just had to find, a Bible-themed location to do that. Luckily, there was one. So, he asked her if today is better than yesterday with the drama, about his mom and his brother. And she's like, well, yeah, we haven't really talked about it, And he's like, okay, let's sit and look at this beautiful view and hash that out. So they have a seat. She asks him if he texted his brother yet. He says he did. He pulls out his phone to show her. And, the text says, Misha's here. He wants them to meet, and she's good with that. Because, she's good with that. That's all she wanted. But because he has to be the man, he's like, you have just gotten here, and over the last 48 hours, He rushed me about my family. You know, he's taking it slowly, and all she wants to do is rush. And they have the rest of their lives together, after all. And this is the same guy who said he would marry her the second that her annulment went through. Now she's rushing him. So, you know, Misha's very smart at expressing how things are and standing her ground. And she tells him that they might not have their entire lives together. They have 2 weeks to figure that out. And how could she think about the rest of her life with someone who doesn't make her feel heard or listens to her feelings and how she feels? You know, and he can understand that. And she's like, this is why this 2 weeks is important, because if I leave here and we aren't engaged, you know, it's over. But no pressure. Ha! This is news to him, because on the phone it was all cupcakes and rainbows that they would be together, get married, and nothing will separate them. And this is the first time he's hearing that it's an engagement or bust, right? But he isn't going to change. He refuses to. And it worries him because his goal is to get engaged. I didn't hear her ask him to change. She asked to meet his family and not to be some, like, secret lover, you know, from the U.S. So, later, these crazy kids are off on date night, and Misha looks amazing. And, you know, she says, where are they? And he's like, we're in hell downtown. Oh, we're in hell downtown Haifa. And she's like, what do you mean hell? And he says he hates it there. He doesn't like going to bars and stuff. But he's doing this for her. She's excited to get him into a new atmosphere. Go out, have a beer, have fun, not stress about everything. He's telling her, you know, 20 years ago there was nothing here. Now it's all bars and restaurants and people. And it's just not his thing. He can just smell the sin dripping everywhere, right? She's like, well, I think it's cute. And he's like, listen, we're here for a half hour, then I'm done. I'm pretty sure it took her longer than that to get ready. So, that's no fun. And, you know, at this point, Nikola is noticing that having a relationship with Misha is hard. He's still surprised to learn about if they don't get engaged, she's leaving him. And he doesn't want to lose her, so he's trying to adapt. You know, they have a cheers. He said the last time he was at a bar was over 20 years ago. She's surprised by that. I don't understand why. I think she knows what his life is like. And he's like, you know, devout Catholics don't go to bars and nightclubs and dancing. And at this point, I can tell that he's about to out Catholic holier than thou her. And he says, having a beer is okay, that's not a sin. But nightclubs and smoking, that's not Catholic. And she's like, you know, once a year I have a cigarette on New Year's Eve. And, you know, he's shocked that she would do like one in a year. He doesn't like it. You know, he's worried about her soul and her worldly temptation, I guess. You know, you can live in the world, but you don't have to behave like it. I guess that's the kicker, right? So, speaking about this, in my culture, so I'm part Native American, and tobacco is like a sacred herb to us. We put it out as offerings, and we put it in with people when they pass on. They give it as a gift to medicine men to like give you your native name. It's a sacred plant to Native people, so it's just about your beliefs. And, you know, I'm real glad we have this guy here pushing his on us and Catholic shaming Misha. And I can't wait to see how he is to her, you know, teenage daughters. So she's saying that all her life was like this, and her friends and family, you know, love to go out and have fun. And if they visited, that's the kind of thing that they would want to do. I think that's most people. Like, even if you don't like drinking, going to a bar is very social, and you don't go on a vacation to like hang out at all the churches and pray. I don't know. But Nicola feels that as a devout Catholic, going to a nightclub and dancing is a sin. And she's like, well, I'm also a devout Catholic, and she can go do these things and she doesn't feel guilty about them. I grew up with a Catholic grandma, and she would take us to church sometimes with her, when we were kids. And I don't remember dancing being a sin. She used to dance, and she went to Catholic every Sunday, all the time. Catholic. She went to church, Jeez. Don't get me talking about that woman. But, there was definitely not a thou shalt not get jiggy with it commandment that I can remember. So she's like, dancing isn't a sin. And the problem is that it leaves the door open for temptations. He could go in the nightclub and not participate, but he just prefers not to go. So then she brings up her daughters finally and is like, look, they're about to go to college. What if they have boyfriends and go clubbing? And would he judge them and say things to them? Finally, she's asking the right things, like worrying about her family. And, not just about her meeting his. Like, how's he going to incorporate himself with her daughters? Especially when he's bringing him to live with them. So then he says some, BS about he won't fight with her daughters because if he does, that's going to destroy their relationship. And, after the day they had and all the conversations, they just want to enjoy the night. So she's like, can we go into the place and see? And if he's comfortable, they'll leave. And he's like, you got 5 minutes, lady. And we'll go in there and we're leaving. 5 minutes. Actually, 4.5. And then the next thing we know, she's dancing on him at the club and they're having a great time. And she's shocked because 5 minutes ago he acted like he couldn't dance, but he's doing it for her. He finally has a smile. And she's got hope now because at least he's willing to compromise to make her happy. So, to conclude this story, Nicola is going to have a hell of a confession this week. Forgive me, Father, I have sinned. I got jiggy with it. Just can't stand that guy. Alright, let's catch up with our resident catfish, Tyree. And his sister, who, by the way, deserves an award for how supportive and patient she is during all of this. She picks him up. We find out since LaShanti found the pictures of Carmela on the escort site, he hasn't made much progress on his own, so he decided to get a private investigator. He's hoping for some answers today, and I guess, so are we. This man still believes she's real and this has to be her husband or boyfriend doing this. Hopefully, this helps him start the healing process because there is no way that is what the private eye is going to tell him. But Tyree claims to finally be ready for the truth. Clearly he isn't, but here we are. The private investigator's name is Lewis. He's been a private eye for 20 years. He's got the info from Tyree, and he knows that Tyree's hoping that she's true and blue, but, I don't know what that means. That's a phrase before my time. True and blue. But Lewis found some information. He ran the phone numbers. They were either drop phones or text now. I told you, I know that text now voicemail anywhere. So, nothing there. They tracked the email that came back to the PayPal account that he's been sending money to. So, unfortunately, you need a court order to get any more info than that. He did some reverse photo searches on the photos from the escort site. He got a hit and it's worse than escort sites. She's a cam girl. Like, let's not judge people's professions, okay? So, he found her Twitter, her contact info, her PayPal doesn't match the one Tyree's been sending. Tyree's having a hard time seeing all this because none of it matches up to the Carmela he fell in love with. Now, this woman, Carmela, is about to get all the business and clients she could ask for, be it on this show. I hope she knows. So, now he's like, maybe they're two different people. The investigator goes ahead and plays a snippet of Carmela's work. Tyree can't say if it sounds like her or not because the videos she sends him have no sounds. So this seasoned veteran of an investigator is like, look at the background. That's the same as the backgrounds from the photos you sent me. So, Tyree's still talking. This relationship meant everything to him. Now he's realizing that this wasn't the face he was talking to. And he's devastated. He's angry that someone used, an adult film star's pictures to make him fall in love with him. And at this point, if they don't stop sex shaming this woman, I'm gonna get mad. I'm already mad. She's still a person, and she is just as much worth as anyone else. And if that industry wasn't as big as it was, maybe people would have an argument. But people like to shame people in that field when they're paying for it themselves. And every time he brings up that he wouldn't be with someone like that, it just gets under my skin. Because it makes me feel like he thinks he's better than, sex workers. And that is not true. So, anyway, he wants to reach out to the real girl and talk to her. And, he's like, maybe they're working together on a scam. Like, her and Christian are, working together. And the investigator's like, yeah, they work in gangs. They're just scammers. And she might not even be a part of it. I doubt she is. Most of the people that use other people's photos for catfishing, the person in the photo doesn't know. They're not like, yeah, here, take my photos and use them for your personal gain. It doesn't work like that usually. So, but apparently there's gangs. What do I know? Catfish gangs. They're catfish schools, sir. So, Tyree wants to reach out to her, get answers, basically. Maybe she knows something. Maybe she can help him out. So, now he's going to go ahead and tell his mom about this, and he's worried about that. She's been through enough. Later, he is finally realizing he was catfished, and it sucks. And he still hasn't heard back from the real Carmela. But he's ready to tell his mom. So, he doesn't want to burden her with this, but as a mom myself, go ahead and tell her. She wants to be there for you. He starts talking, and he's pussyfooting around, and the mom is like, your health is okay, right? And the other sister's like, would you just spit it out, please? And he tells them, he met Carmela 4 years ago. She lives in Barbados. And the sister's like, oh, you went to Barbados last year. And the mama's like, well, did you see her there? And he's like, well, they thought he needed a break from everything because at the time his mom was in the hospital and stuff. But, he was going to see a girl. He tells them that he didn't meet her at the time. And they're shocked that he would talk to her again after that. And the mom and the sister start lecturing him. And he's like, well, there's more. He tells them about the producers, telling them he's being catfished. They're just shocked and confused. They just keep Tyree! He tells them what the PI said. And, they're just worried if he's okay. He tells them he wants closure, and he is now thinking about going to Barbados to find who's behind the messages and get answers. And the mama is like, "You're gonna spend the last of your money to go over there? Why? You don't even have money. Why?" And, he says he had a lot of love and a relationship and a future planned with them, and he still believes somehow that he was talking to a woman. He wants to talk to this person, see if, he's got the right feelings. That this woman, that it is a woman, and that, they have feelings for Tyree too. He wants to know the love is real. And it's not. I'm sorry, Tyree. Just go have a fun vacation in Barbados. You could meet a lady at the pool. I bet you could. Maybe a couple. Like that one guy. What was it? Oh, what was the show? Was it Love in Paradise, where the guy was trying to break up the lesbian couple because he met them on vacation? Anyway, the mom and the sister are mad. They want to lay hands on this person, and she hopes her son can heal. She doesn't want him to go over there. The mom and sister, they feel he's avoiding questions that they're asking because, he's holding on hope that somehow all this could be real, and she really loved him, and, she's just someone's prisoner and he could save her. Whatever delusions he has going on in his head to make this okay. So, hopefully next time we see him, he'll be on a plane, I guess. Alright, next up is Riley and Violet. It looks like they're heading to the War Remnants Museum, which is very fitting after their last encounter together. So let's see where the pieces fell after that family dinner. Riley says even though they had a straight up blow up argument in the street, it ended well because he got to meet her family. I wonder what Violet thinks, because he must have been at a different dinner, or maybe for some reason he can't pick up the social cues. I know one of my subscribers had mentioned that he might be autistic, or they heard he was autistic. I don't know that for sure, but that's a good example of why he could be, because he felt great after the dinner, and I don't think anybody else did. So, shout out to you, by the way, for giving me that info. Thank you. So, we find out that they keep their weapons from the Vietnam War there. And he's explaining the symbols on the back of the airplanes and stuff like that. And, he's ex-military, so he's interested in the stories and seeing these things. Violet says, this place just makes her sad. And, when she goes there. Just like how their relationship makes me sad. So he tells her, it's sad, but it's part of history. She says she doesn't feel good, so they go sit down. Violet is confused because sometimes, Riley is very cute and lovey, and sometimes he's just terrible. And she wants to tell him about her culture and how he's being rude in Vietnam, and he needs to learn more of her culture to be with her. But, calling someone old and ugly and making fun of their belly isn't rude, But he's being rude. So anyway, she starts talking about dinner and says after she talked to her mom thinks he's jealous, he wants to control her. And, he's not trying to control her, he's trying to understand. So she lets him know he needs to let her finish, and that her mom also said that Riley isn't thoughtful because he didn't bring the mom flowers or chocolates, and that's very bad in Vietnam. And I think that's a universal thing. If I was meeting someone's mom, I would bring her a gift. So he's, well, how is he supposed to know what she likes or what was appropriate to give her? And, he could have asked Violet, and Violet could have told Riley. So they're both wrong there. And she says that she told her mom that maybe he just forgot. He agrees. He says he feels horrible. He didn't intend to disrespect everyone, and that he does need to learn her culture. But what he wants to know is, when is Violet going to learn about his culture? You know, she called him fat and ugly in front of people. In America, that's rude, especially if you're with a significant other. She's like, really? She had no idea. And sometimes she's kidding with her friends or her kids, and, you know, they say you're ugly or crazy. And in her culture, that's not rude. And then this man pulls out the race card to say he feels like it's his skin tone she's calling ugly, and he's in a place with, you know, no black people, and he's only seen one other person like him, and he already feels like a spectacle because he's 6'4" and dark, and calling him ugly makes him feel like people think light-skinned black is better than prettier than dark-skinned black, is what he was saying. And I'm like, what in the world is he talking about? Because, you know, anyone of any color can be ugly and beautiful. And, like, I didn't see her call him anything racist or mention a skin color or anything like that. So maybe it's just being like a fish out of water, and people probably are staring at him. We don't see that part of it. But I just don't think anyone brought up his skin tone was too dark. But anyway, whatever he was saying worked, because Violet did feel bad, you know, that he feels alienated and upset. And, you know, he did do a good job explaining things from his point of view about what happened at the fabric shop. And, you know, she's realizing to make things work, she needs to change a little too. So she apologized to him. He accepts. Neither of them want to give up. You know, he chalks up all their issues to, like, they don't understand each other's culture. So they decide to keep working on it because they care about each other. He invites her to dinner. She seems happy. She's like, can I wear a sexy dress? Of course, he would love that. You know, he's feeling like they're starting to communicate more. And they're going to, you know, hopefully get back on track. But, you know, they have issues. So we're off to date night on the rooftop of this hotel. Even though they had that misunderstanding, they're doing better now. And she hopes things will improve. She wants it to work. And, you know, she's going to make their time together tonight amazing. I think she was even going to kiss his cheek, maybe. You know, touch his hand. I don't know. But I did notice that he had her waiting at the table again. But this time she didn't get mad. She's looking sexy. She thinks Riley's looking great. And I'm like, did this woman have a joint before she came to dinner? Because she's just nice and chill and happy. He said, like, he can tell she's impressed and he's glad. You know, he came here just for this moment to see her impressed with him, I guess. You know, she's like, if they stay together and she moves to America, she wants him to tell her more about it. So that means that she actually listened to what he said and his feelings, because she wants to know about his country. So, and she even had a question on deck. She's like, for example, if your sister doesn't like me here, we wouldn't get married. How does that work in America, you know? And he says it's important, you know, for your family to like your spouse here, but if they don't, it doesn't matter. She would still be his wife. They would have to accept it. She's like, well, I'm happy because your dad likes me. And I'm like, oh, sweet summer child. He does not like you. And Riley's like, I know you're trying to have a good relationship, but we argue and you say bad things about me. And she's like, nope, not today. We're not talking about bad things on this day, the day of good date night number 1, because all the other dates have been terrible. So she's about to walk off and he's like, no, you're right, I'm sorry. he recaps us about, finding out all the things she said to his dad. And, she's still avoiding and not willing to answer questions. Maybe she's trying to have a nice dinner. Like, you guys need to let your guards down a little. And some of his questions aren't necessary anymore because he got his ass on the plane and flew there. So if he cared about her being on the dating app, what did he do that for? So he's Riley's like, my friend who's like my big sister wants to meet you. And for some reason he decides in the middle of this very nice date they're having to call her. So they do. He calls her, he's like, hey, how's it going? I think it's Tiffany. And then he's like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So here you go, Violet, hold the phone. Like, in hopes that she could get the info out for him. Or he's just never gonna get the info. She's like, yeah, he's my brother. He keeps telling me, you might be the one. So how do you feel about him? She's like, he's a good man. He's cute. And she's like, well, why did you make him delete that app, but then you stayed on it? And by this point, Riley had made his entrance back. And Riley, repeats the question. She asked you a question. Why did you stay on the app? And Violet's feeling ambushed. And he's like, look, I went to your family's house and I answered their questions. So this was definitely a setup. And it makes me really upset because Riley had a chance to, improve things. So then, sister friend is like, why didn't you delete the app? And Violet just looks mortified. And I bet she wishes she didn't agree to that, phone call. But that's the end of that until next week because we were cut off there. And I just don't think it was fair. I think Violet's been through a whole lot that we don't know about. And she is very, very guarded. And she's slowly starting to let him in, and doing something like that is going to set them back a lot. Just saying. Alright guys, thank you for sticking it out this far. Last up, I'm going to go ahead and talk about Christian and Cleo. He wakes up, he was so tired that he just, kissed her and went to bed. She's telling him, I snuggled you, you snuggled me. But she's saying that she was disappointed in the lack of physical affection. She thinks there's a stereotype about autistic people that they're cold, and apparently she's weird because she likes cuddles and hugs are important, and she's affectionate and friendly. So then she's like, she needs to get her gel on, and she starts applying it to her arm. And we find out it's like an estrogen gel that absorbs through her skin. And he's like, really? That's so strange. And she says, in the U.S., hormones are mostly taken through pills. But the pills filter through your liver. And that makes them more damaging to our bodies. And topical just goes to the bloodstream. So his first question is how long does it take to absorb? She says, 3 minutes. And we all know he just asked that because he doesn't want to get estrogen gel on him. And she picks up on this and she's like, you'll be able to touch me without turning into a trans woman. And they have a nice laugh and they go off to feed the cats. In his little interview, he says he is attracted to her because he was attracted to her because how comfortable she is with her identity. But now being here and seeing her put on estrogen gel, he doesn't know much about that. And he's worried it'll rub off on him and he doesn't know how that would affect him. So Christian doesn't know that we all produce testosterone and estrogen. Just men have more of one and women have more of the other. So even if some did get on him, he would be fine. He would get his period a little early, maybe. Obviously, he needs it. So, he didn't go to health class. But it makes him uncomfortable. He's in a new situation. Poor Christian. They go to feed the cats, and he's like, oh, we feed them first and then us? She's like, always. As if it's, easy to just eat in front of hungry animals. You would feed them first so you can eat in peace, I would think. So she's like, what are we planning on doing today? And this man doesn't plan things. He just rough itineraries it, just like actual life. He just wants to explore. He's a go with the flow type, and she isn't. The world can be extremely unpredictable sometimes, and she says she's autistic and she prefers to have a plan. And that is so true. My life is scheduled almost to the minute because my son has his own set itinerary and body clock. But like anyone struggling with anxiety in general may feel this way, I recheck plans triple sometimes so that everyone knows. And, I know, like we all know the plan. She needs predictability in her life, but she's afraid that like voicing those concerns will cause him to not have a good time in England. So they walk through the heart of London. They can see Big Ben and Parliament and the London Eye. And it's so cool. I wish I could go so bad. I love all things British, for sure. He, is talking about how he was a big James Bond fan, and seeing the monuments and stuff he saw in those movies is surreal. I never, saw James Bond myself, but he says, being with her, there's a fly attacking me. Ah. It loves me. So, being there with Cleo makes him feel like he has his own personal Bond girl. So, she brings him to a place to grab a drink. He makes a toast to them finally getting together. It's their first date, technically, and she's voicing that she likes that it isn't crowded and they can talk without having to scream. He's starting to mention the jet lag and how he was so tired, and, he's sorry that he just fell asleep, and he doesn't want her to think that he isn't into her. And she's like, don't worry, I wouldn't have slept with you the first night anyways. And then Christian seems taken aback by that. And he's like, oh, you're a classy broad. Takes a shot, gives her a whiskey kiss because he just said, oh, you won't sleep with me? Challenge accepted. She didn't mind the taste of the whiskey, and he's like, well, that's good because I'll probably never taste like anything else. He likes to get drunk and have shots and do karaoke and dance. He asks her if she likes to dance. It's like, of course not, dummy. I've seen a few episodes of her, and even I know that she doesn't like to go out and dance. And you've been talking to her daily for months, and you don't know that? So she says, no, of course not. He wants to see her get buzzed up because that's all he cares about is drinking and having fun. He's like, let's get out of here and go somewhere lively. After she just said that she likes this intimate setting that they have going on. So, he didn't listen to her. But she's willing to do that. He's like, since he got there, she's been shy and he wants to take her somewhere and get her drunk so she can loosen up. He's been there a day and she's been shy half that time. He was sleeping. So what chance did she have to not only not be shy, but to, get to know him in any way? And then she walked herself through the most populated, congested area of London to show you the landmarks, and she didn't freak out. How easily she could have been overwhelmed and overstimulated and had an issue, but she put that aside for you. And you're going to complain. So that's great. So, if they go out and she's livelier, that will give him more hope for their relationship. And at this point, I have already hated him, but I hate him even more. And he does not deserve this woman. He's so selfish. So they arrive at the more lively place. He's happy, it's his kind of place. He wants to get a drink in her and loosen her up. And just for my opinion, he's doing all this so he can get her to want to sleep with him, even if he rejects her, because she said she wouldn't, and that's a challenge to him, I am sure. And he's like, oh, let's get drunk. So she's trying to have him have a good time, but this place isn't autism friendly. It's noisy, it's chaotic, there's just people, there's so much going on. They get drinks, and he's like, don't mind me, I'm just gonna devour this. And then he starts telling her about a funny story on the plane, how he was having drinks and everyone on the plane was, sleeping. So he's stumbling back, and these two young, like 21-year-old girls are the only people awake. So he sits down and, chats them up. And he's like, oh, we need more drinks. Like, he's at freaking, I was going to say Zorba's. That's kind of a bar where I live. But, like, he's at the bar, So he goes and asks for drinks from the flight attendant, and she cuts him off. She says she heard about him. And Cleo's like, well, maybe they complained. And he's like, yeah, I was just being social. No one else was awake. And Cleo's like, I would freak out if someone did that to me. A lot of us would, especially when we were 21-year-old girls and this older drunk guy is chatting you up on a plane. There's nowhere to run. You're stuck in these seats. And he, immediately is like, yeah, I probably look like a creep, but I wasn't hitting on them. He asked her if that bothers her. And she said it would if she was there. And he's like, well, I wouldn't do that if you were there. And she's like, well, yeah, but behind my back is okay. He's like, absolutely not. But he did. And he's like, no, you weren't on the plane. I was alone. He thinks that she's mad that he did that. And no one had a problem in the past because he's a real friendly guy. And he hopes she realizes that him being social with women isn't a big deal. It's not a big deal for this man, the self-proclaimed man whore, to be chatting up young girls on a plane. So, whatever. She's like, do you do that all the time? And he's like, yeah, I'm a magnet. She says, he was flirting with girls, and she would never behave that way. She wouldn't drink on a plane, and she certainly wouldn't be chatting up strangers. And now she's questioning whether or not they're compatible. And I'm glad she's starting to see this after being around him for a day. So, it looks like they're having another drink, and just, to prove some kind of douchebag point, I think, he starts chatting up the table of girls behind him, asking if they're celebrating, what they're celebrating. We find out it's one of the friends' birthday. He starts giving his bio, asking them questions. He has them all laughing at his American jokes about him being an American. And then he's like, oh, by the way, this is my girlfriend back there. I'm here meeting her for the first time. And he's like, moving closer. And she's like, no, she can't. Like, she physically can't. And I'm starting to wonder, like, does he think she doesn't have autism? Like, does he not know what autism means? Did he not bother to do a quick Google search of autism, like things? I'm sure she's explained it in great depth because she's explained it to us very articulately. She explained it to us very well. Like he didn't care at all to research anything about her or her life. So, he's worried about his own selfish needs and his attention-seeking behavior to worry about her needs. And apparently she just needs to conform to him. Like, she's been out and around people all day, and that is extremely hard for anybody. Like, that kids with autism that go to school get sensory breaks throughout the day so they can self-regulate themselves. We don't know if she got that, but he's definitely pushing her way out of her comfort zone. And she does feel like she wishes he was more considerate. She tells him she wants to leave, and he is actually like, okay, says goodbye to his new friends, chugs his drink and probably hers, and she's just not happy. She's exhausted. She feels they need this time to get to know each other and connect and not worry about making friends with girls at the bar. And if this is how all their dates are going to go, she doesn't want to be in this type of relationship. So, for me, I grew up in Minnesota, and Christian is the typical Minnesota guy in his 30s trying to date. It's all about drinking and getting laid and never growing up. Like, people party here, and I'm just speaking for Minnesota because I didn't grow up anywhere else. It could be like this anywhere else. But people party here very young, and we never stop. And it's almost like you're the weirdo if you don't drink here. And, like, people will pressure you, and they, like he was doing to her. And it was very triggering for me. People will make it seem like you're no fun if you don't want to go out and, like, not even have a couple drinks. Like, I mean, we drink here. Like, how he was drinking is normal to me. Like, I see people doing that constantly. Personally, I haven't drank in over 2 years because of having the duodenal switch surgery. Alcohol would go through me, like, real quick. I'd be very drunk from what I've heard. And I'm just not a fan of drinking. And it's because of men like this. Like, I won't even date men who say they drink, want to drink, talk about drinking. Because they all act like this here. They're all like, just want a good time. They want the conquest. And that's why I recognize when she said she wouldn't have slept with him, he upped up his game. Because now it's a challenge. And that is not fair. It just isn't. Not to prove a point. And I think he's going to trigger me a whole lot more the rest of this. And I just pray that Cleo is doing well. And I'm sure we're going to find out. So, that was this week. What did you guys think? It's getting juicier. TLC is sure flooding us with a lot of content, and I am here for that. I think there's only a couple episodes of Match Me Abroad yet left, and, you know, we just started The Other Way. I did see that they put up 90 Day UK, but they put up 3 episodes at once, and I started to watch it, and I just wasn't into it. Like, not enough to where I could have an opinion so far. And I'm waiting for this 90 Day Couples show. Hopefully they tell us some more couples that will be on it soon. And, yeah, I will definitely see you guys soon. Next week, it might be a lot hard for me to upload because I'm getting my very own airport moment, and I have company flying in. So I'm not sure. If you don't see videos next week, I'm just going to double up after that to catch back up. So don't worry. I'll still be here. Thank you guys for hanging out and subscribing and liking and commenting. I appreciate it so much, and I think it's really cool that anybody would want to hear what I have to say. So I definitely appreciate that, and I hope you have a great day, and spread love and light and good karma, and take deep breaths. Don't forget to take deep breaths. It helps. I'm going to do a few right after this. So, bye everybody.